Hi, I look so tired and just thrown against the wind, but I will tell you that I am tired because today we're going to be discussing a movie that's going to make you pretty tired. It's also going to make you pretty annoyed and a little bit angry too, because if there's one thing I cannot stand in this world, it is children. Sorry to the parents out there, but it's not for me. Good for you. But after seeing this film, I'm pretty solid in my decision on never having kids. So this week we're going to be talking about Brightburn 2019, and I saw this. This is the second time I think I've seen this film. The first time I saw it was in theaters when it first came out. I think I saw it with my dad. And then I recently rewatched it for like the second time ever recently, and it inspired me so much to make a video about it. Because, honey, gentle parenting is not enough. This kid deserves all the hands, feet, knees, elbows, also the parents too. I feel like this movie could have been prevented a little bit. Not the whole entire plot, but just a little bit because of the parents' decisions and how they decided to raise this child. Hello, I hope you guys are doing well today. I'm sorry that I didn't post a video sooner or last week. It was my birthday. I look like I have been raising my own child, which I have. My cat is on my bed, just enjoying life rent free, and that's in a way I am a mother. This is him. This is my child. You want to say hi to anyone? Save me, help! All right, well. So, without further ado, I know y'all been waiting so long for a new video, and let's get into Brightburn 2019. So the film opens with a man and woman. They are married and they are trying to conceive a child. Why? I'll never know. This is, how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? This is one of the things that I will never know. As we're getting into it, they feel the house rumble and the wife gets up to inspect it. And the man and woman, their names are, I always forget the names. Both of their names are Kyle and Tori, and they're a married couple. And yeah, once she inspects the house, and all of a sudden a quake hits the house and the earth is shooketh. They see a light gleaming from the woods from their window. So they're like, let's go check it out. They go to inspect it, and it turns out to be a little alien baby boy. Personally, I would have let it die, but that's just me. Thus, the couple become parents overnight, and we see their child, their son, which they name Brandon, grow up, and they show like little, videos of him as a baby. And these are sweet enough moments. We see this kid like growing up, and it doesn't seem like anything, dark or sinister is gonna happen, but of course, as the audience, we know something's a little bit suspicious, especially when you decide to take a alien baby and raise it as your own, thinking that, well, it looks human, so it should be fine. He probably is normal. He's gonna have a good credit score. So around 12 years pass by, and we see Brandon's getting a little bit older. He is a very bright student, but he's very much kept to himself at school, and because of that, he is unfortunately bullied. Now, it's important to note that the parents don't want Brandon to go in the barn in the back of their house, because underneath the barn, they hid the spaceship that he came in underneath the floorboards. So one morning that Brandon is just outside playing, he hides from his mother in the barn, and she goes in there. She's kind of a little bit concerned, more so not for the safety of the child, but more like, oh, he might find where he came from. And that's to me, that's a red flag number one, because I get it, you want to raise this boy normal and give him a good life, but at the same time, he came from an alien spaceship. I mean, that's something you should be more, taking precautions of, and also explaining to Brandon, like, hey, this is your origins. But do they do that? No. Just like all children, they go through that disgusting period of their life, puberty. And Brandon starts to feel a little bit off, and it starts one night when he is sleeping and his mother's downstairs painting, and all of a sudden the ship underneath the barn floor starts to kind of pop off a little bit, and it's sending Brandon a signal, and it's like trying to, I guess, psychologically take him over, I guess. He's sleeping, but the ship is trying to take hold of him, and that's when just it goes downhill from here. As Brandon has a crush on a little classmate, and but he's super shy. Like I said, he gets bullied, so he's just doesn't really know how to approach her the correct way. We'll come back to that in a little bit, okay? Later that night, he is sleeping again, and the ship commands him to go towards it, and Brandon ends up sleepwalking to the ship, and he's trying to like get the doors open, and his mother of course sees him and she's really concerned, so she touches him and he wakes up and he has no idea of what just happened. He honestly thinks he just sleptwalked, and of course Tori. Kyle asks, hey, like, is everything okay? She's like, oh yeah, Brandon just like sleptwalk, it's fine, nothing too crazy. Failing to mention that, oh, well, he actually was disturbed by the ship. I think, maybe it's time we talk to him about this, or, because it just was weird. He never done this before. Nope. Also, little man jumps out of 2 stories from his window to get to the barn. Dude, at my age, I jump off. When you go down the steps and you're like, oh, there's one more step I could jump off. Dude, I literally see the light from the clouds and the trumpets in my ears blaring loud. It's true. You get older and your bones just are about to disintegrate. I started taking calcium too, so, hopefully that'll give me like, a little bit of my time back. So after Tori does a shit job explaining it to her husband, they go to sleep like nothing happened. So it's Brendan's 12th birthday, and they decide to go to like a local diner. It's a small town that they live in, but they go to a local diner to celebrate his birthday, and his crush's mom actually works there. She's the waitress that serves him. She is important, so we will get back to that, okay? At the dinner, Brandon's uncle gifts him a gun, which is the most American thing you could actually do. Kyle, his dad, is like, bro, what? Like, no, he's not gonna accept this gift. He's only 12. And Brandon, oh my god, you would think that he just started like his monthly, has a huge fit about it. He is like, no, I'm 12. Boy, you ain't grown. He's like, I'm 12 and this is my present. I want the gun. And of course the dad's like pointing his foot down. He's like, no, you're not gonna have it. That's when Tori's like, oh, okay, like, I think we should go home. It's been a long day type of thing. So they leave. So later that night, the parents talk about doing like a little camping trip, because even Tori does mention that his behavior is a little off, that he's never acted this way. That morning, they're getting ready to go, and Brandon is in a daze, and we see that he is eating eggs, and oh my god, I don't know what it's called, but when you hear like forks, you bite down on a fork, or you hear it being scratched on like plates or anything like that, and it just gives you chills. I hate that noise. Well, little homeboy is eating that fork for breakfast, and his dad notices, he hears it, and he goes to Brandon and he pulls it out, and Brandon's unharmed, but the fork is just like throwing up gang signs. And yet again, the parents decide not to talk about Brandon's upbringing, or where he came from, or anything like that. And also, I feel like in the very beginning, Brandon is a little shocked. He doesn't understand exactly what's going on, even his fits of rage. And it's not till, of course, later that he realizes, what he is doing, and he's like, more aware of it. So Tori goes upstairs to get a jacket for Brandon, and of course, she's sneaking around a little bit, and she notices pictures of women, and Kyle comes out to the bedroom and joins her, and they are like, oh, okay, he is going through puberty, and, this is normal. He just is taking an interest in girls, and
what is that?
Brandon has clippings and pictures of female anatomy and like the actual like inside organs of how a female body looks and works, and they're kind of thrown off a bit. They're like, oh, like, is this a guy thing? Like, is this what you did when you were younger? And still, no conversation with Brandon. Tori must have a house cleaning business because she is so good at sweeping everything under the rug. So they go camping, and Kyle takes Brandon out to, like, practice shoot with his gun, and he gives him the actual, like, body to body talk, and he just says, like, like, it's normal, kids your age, and whenever you want to explore, just, do it on your own time and your own privacy, all this and that. And Brandon's just like, okay. Later that night, they're sharing a tent, and it's kind of cold. And Tori turns over and she sees that Brandon's gone and the tent door is open. Where did he go, you ask? Girl, he went to go be a creep, and he snuck into his crush's bedroom window, and he turns on her laptop and he plays, like, some music, and she closes the laptop and it turns back on. She goes back to turn it off, and she notices the window's open, and through the curtain she sees Brandon peeping in at her, and she gets scared. So he leaves, and her mother comes in the room and she's like, oh, like, what's wrong, because you're scared? And she tells her, like, well, like, he was looking at me. And the mom's like, who? And she was like, Brandon. So the parents are searching for Brandon. They're, like, calling out his name and everything, and he just shows up and he's like, oh, like, I had to pee, basically. No questions. At school, Brandon has an aunt, and she is the school psychiatrist, and she happens to tell Tori, like, oh, like, whatever he's feeling, it's fine. He's a kid going through puberty. Nothing really you should worry about. Okay, I feel like Tori wasn't really specific about the stuff that she was telling him, but okay, we're just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt again. I could not be a parent. I'm sorry, I could not be a parent. And girl, like, saying it's normal for his age, I guess, yeah, but, like, I had unauthorized internet access, and I wasn't storing pictures of human anatomy in my room because I was curious about the birds and the bees. Like, that is just insane to me. Later that night, Kyle hears the chickens from close to their barn kind of tweaking and freaking out a little bit. So he goes to check up on them, and he sees Brandon just staring them down, like, kind of just staring at the door. And he's kind of like, boy, what are you doing out here? And he's like, oh, nothing. And he just leaves, like, like, literally, just no conversation, just kind of like, okay, go back inside. During the night, he hears the chickens once again. He goes to check on the chickens in the coop, and they are just mangled and just brutally killed. He is in shock, and he's kind of like, what just happened, dude? And Tori comes down and she's like, oh my god, like, it was probably a wolf. Girl, well, Kyle's already starting to get suspicious, okay? And he's like, you think a wolf is gonna rip a hinged door off? Girl, you think if it's a wolf, that wolf is just gonna leave without taking a 2-piece leg and thigh combo and a biscuit? No, like, those wolves will take away those chicken bodies. So Kyle's like, nah, I think this is Brandon's doing. He's starting to get a little bit suspicious, okay, but Tori, of course, her being, like, the mama bear she is, she's like, no, how dare you think that our son, Brandon, our little perfect angel that was sent directly from heaven through FedEx to us, like, same-day delivery shipping, you think that he would do this? I'm going to bed. The denial that parents have sometimes is wild to me. During gym class, they're doing, like, a trust fall exercise, and Brandon, of course, is in the middle, and his crush is there. She looks really, like, it's sad. She looks scared. Like, she's creeped out, and Brandon gets pushed towards her, and she's like, ew, like, don't touch me. Valid, girl. That's so valid. The gym teacher forces her to pick him up, and she's calling him, no, like, she's saying, like, he's a creep, he was in my room, and Brandon, of course, like, saying, like, you're a liar, like, just all this attitude, really angry. So, of course, the gym teacher's like, well, Miss Girl, help him up right now. And she reluctantly, like, lends her hand to grab his, and by golly, he crushes this poor girl's hand. Brandon, is, of course, in trouble because of this, and her parents and his parents are in the office discussing this. And from this point on, I hate Tori. I cannot stand Tori. And there's probably gonna be parents out there like, well, like, we don't want to believe our kid's bad. You have to open your eyes a little bit, because this is like, dude, if I broke any kid's limbs in my classroom, oh my god, I wouldn't be here. It'd be the end of me. I like it. It's crazy to try to dismiss such a horrible action, and that's what she's kind of doing. And her mother is saying, like, he should be put in jail, like, you know, this is, like, what he did is, like, awful, and I agree. So dumbass stories, like, oh, it was an accident, you know, he's gonna be suspended, like, you know, we're gonna talk to him, don't worry. And dude, okay, like, if that was me, if I had a mother whose child just broke my baby's hand, like, in school, and she's trying to just dismiss it, like, no, he's a good boy. He is a very, very good boy. We're gonna talk to him. Don't worry. We're gonna give him the sternest talk ever. We're gonna set him down. This is not right. It will never happen again. Bitch, I'd be there like, ooh. She's right. But, oh, Miss Johnson, what are you doing? Girl, I could not be a parent, because heaven forbid anything ever happened to my child. I would lose it. So later sometime, Brandon makes another visit to Christina. That's the little girl's name. That's his crush's name. I know I never mentioned it, but I forgot about it, honestly. So he went to Christina's room, and he brought her flowers, and he goes into the room, and he's kind of like goading of how amazing and special he is. And poor girl, homegirl is so scared. And she's like, I'm not supposed to talk to you. My mom does not want you anywhere around me. And he's like, I'll fix that. And he leaves. So Brandon goes to the restaurant that Christina's mother works at, and he is just starts to antagonize her, and he writes his symbol. So I didn't mention this either a while back. So Brandon draws these symbols, and it's like two diamonds, one on top of the other, and a line going in between them. And that's supposed to stand for his name, Brandon Byer. He causes the lights to break, and one of the light shatters above her, and the glass goes into her eye, and she just like pulls it out, which honestly, that's pretty baller. I would be too scared and squeamish to do it. I just leave it in, honestly. Brandon shows up, and he has like his full fit already. He has like a red cape, and he has like a red mask with like shoelaces that kind of like intertwine, and like his eyes are glowing red basically. And he just brutally kills this woman. And while all this is happening, Tori finally decides to tell Kyle that, hey, he found the spaceship a little while back. He wasn't sleepwalking. I wanted to tell you that, but I didn't think it was going to be anything important. And Kyle's kind of like, okay, so what are we going to do about him? Because he's never bled Tori. Like, this kid is pretty strong. And I'm actually, you know, pretty terrified of him. Brandon is like impenetrable to anything that we on this planet are able to use against him. And of course, the sheriff starts to look for the missing mother, and he does notice the little B signal, the little B diamond signal that Brandon does. So that's already like a clue for him. Brandon once again gets summoned to the ship, and this time he's actually able to open the doors to the ship, and it starts to kind of give him a saying, and we don't understand exactly what he's saying because it's in his own language, like his alien language. And Tori kind of like follows him into the barn, and she sees that the ship is starting to kind of take over him. And Brandon, like, the ship eventually lets him go, and Brandon falls, and he cuts himself on a fragment of the ship, and he starts to bleed. So this does show that Brandon is able to be stopped, but only by that ship. Tori coddles him, literally she coddles him this whole movie, but she holds him and she starts to explain like, hey, so this is where you came from, and you are very, very special to us. We wanted so badly for a child, and you came into our life, so of course, you know, we accepted you with open arms, and you are our baby. You're just not from here, you're not like other kids. And fairly enough, I do understand Brandon's anger for this, because he says, like, you lied to me. My whole life you lied to me. And true. Like, I feel like his anger in this moment is valid. He leaves and he starts to kind of say what the ship was telling him to, like, to do, which was like an order from the ship. And he basically tells himself from the ship to take the world. Yeah, I think that conversation would have been helpful, Tori and Kyle, but you guys didn't want to listen. Now look what you have done. Even though what Brandon's doing, it's also your fault. Because especially Tori, I understand you want to be a mother, but you were in so denial that you will literally just, like I said, you are so good. Honestly, I feel like wood floors or tile are your specialty because you just collect all that dust, all that trash, and you put it under the rug. That's literally what you do, honey. So the next morning, Brandon is talking to his aunt, the school therapist, about how he's been feeling. And, he's saying like, well, I'm special. I'm better than everyone. And he's basically kind of, glowing a little bit too much about himself and not like, fully confessing to what he's done, but saying some alarming things. And he asks the aunt, like, are you going to tell anybody? And of course the aunt's like, well, your family, but this is my job. Like, I have to tell the sheriff, like, if anything is sus about you, I need to let someone know. And of course, Brandon doesn't like this. And he's like, I don't think you should do that, honey. I feel like this conversation to stay in this room. Later that evening, Brandon makes a guest appearance at the aunt and uncle's house. And he is telling the aunt, like, hey, I really think you should not tell anyone, especially the sheriff. And the aunt's kind of like saying, like, boy, what are you doing here? Like, this is such inappropriate behavior. You should not be here and you should go home. He's like, okay, bye. He sneaks back into the house. And of course, the parents are like wondering where he's at. And they're like, they're trying to call people. So he's in the house and it's clear that he's going to try to, kill the aunt to keep her quiet. Well, during that time when they were having that conversation, the uncle and Kyle were having a drink at the bar and they were kind of discussing a little bit, Brandon as well. And the uncle decided to leave. And he only had like 2 beers, but he was, pretty sober. So he comes home and he is, he sees his wife asleep in bed. And he hears a noise come from the closet and he goes in there and it's Brandon hiding. And, the uncle, of course, is like creeped out. He's like, bro, what are you doing here? Like, you need to go home. So he takes Brandon and he's going to take him to the car to take him home. And Brandon's like, are you going to tell my parents? And he's like, you're lucky that's all I tell. Like, you're lucky that's all I do, basically. And Brandon's like, nope. So he pushes the uncle. Well, he kind of like throws the uncle and he leaves and the uncle gets in the car and he just drives off. So driving down the road, he sees Brandon and Brandon like completely so Brandon, I think, does have some power when it comes to electricity or like telepathy, I think, because he stalls and stops the uncle's car from working. And Brandon picks up the truck and just like drops it. And because of this impact, the uncle like just, the scene from Mirrors? Yeah, like literally that. And, it does kill the uncle. And once again, Brandon leaves his little like serial killer symbol in the road with, the uncle's blood, and he heads home. And he's home. His parents are like, oh my God, like, where have you been? And he's like, oh, I've been fine. Like, I was playing soccer with some friends, and then they started to bully me. They ripped my shirt, and I just walked home. It's such a, and of course the dad is like, okay, like, the dad's alarms are not going off. But of course, Tori's like, oh my God, yeah, it's okay. Like, go to sleep, go wash up. It's okay. Like, the dad's kind of like, Tori, like, come on, you need to wake up. Something is wrong. And that's when they get the call that their uncle was, presumed dead. It was an accident. And they think that, well, since they were at the bar together, he was presumably drunk. And that's what caused him to, to pass in such a tragic way. I mean, honestly, I feel like if I was a cop there, because from the scene, you literally see Brandon, like, take the truck up and front down, it, like, smashes. But if I was there, like, if I was a cop or inspector at the scene, I'd be like, well, none of the trees are damaged, and this is like some pretty like head on um damage. So, I would think another car or something, an animal will be involved, but there's nothing around it. It's literally just, a truck that's like been smashed like front. But that's just me. You have to ask yourself the logical question sometimes, because horror movies, they need to keep the plot going. So they will just, just like Tori, sweep it under that rug. Noah, that's the uncle's name. Noah. I don't know why I'm forgetting a lot of the names from the people in this movie, because the main important people are like Tori, Kyle, and Brandon, like the family, and then the other side characters. I'll just, if I remember. But Christina was the crush's name, and Noah was the uncle. But I don't remember the aunt, so do not ask me. So the next morning, they do bring up the news to Brandon, like, hey, like, your uncle is dead. He, had an accident last night. And Brandon is so unfazed. He don't care. He's like, all right, I love Uncle, Noah. I can't believe he's gone. And, Kyle is like, bro, stop acting. You are lying. You know something happened. And this causes a confrontation between them. And Brandon throws Kyle to the cabinets. Kyle looks for Brandon's shirt that does have like the blood on it. Kyle tries to show Tori the bloody shirt and be like, look, there's blood on this shirt. There's no way they could be his because he was not bleeding last night. And of course, Tori, dumbass Tori, is still in denial that her little perfect angel baby boy would ever do such a horrible crime. But, Kyle is persistent, like, I know that this kid is involved. And even the sheriff is starting to kind of get a whiff of suspicions that possibly Brandon could be involved in this. Kyle tells Tori that he's going to take Brandon on just a little camping trip between him and Brandon, like just the two of them. And of course, Tori could not be more delighted. Literally, Kyle told Tori, and this woman is like, honey, I am so glad. You know what? That's something you guys need. You just need a little getaway with each other. I think that would actually be the best for you two. Oh, this makes me so happy. I'm so elated. Yes, taking a trip, But of course, Kyle has other intentions when taking him to the trip. So they both go on this trip, and Tori kisses Brandon, says, oh, like, you're my special little baby boy. And she says, like, y'all have fun. Let me know if you need anything. And in the forest, Kyle is going to get rid of Brandon because he knows intuitively that Brandon is the cause of all this bad stuff, and he's not wrong. But he also was never told the information that Tori saw him get cut from the ship, and that nothing, unfortunately, is going to get rid of this child, this literal demon from hell, if it's not a particle from that ship. So Kyle shoots Brandon from the back of his head, and the bullet just ricochets. It does nothing. Brandon turns around and he's kind of like shocked that his dad would do that. But of course, he gets angry and he starts to chase down Kyle. He catches up to Kyle, and he just like is like, you will not need any more glasses. As a matter of fact, you won't even need a brain or anything, because I'm going to turn that into goop. And he kills Kyle. And as they're both gone, the sheriff does come to the house, and he asks Tori if Brandon's there because he has a couple questions, and he shows Tori, does the symbol look familiar to you? And he gives her a picture, and it's the little, Brandon Bryan signal, the little symbol that he's been drawing and everything. And Tori's mood just completely changes. She is like, no, that doesn't look familiar. He's not here. And the sheriff's like, okay, well, I will be back later. And instantly, Tori knows that Brandon is the culprit. Finally, she sees that Brandon is the killer to all these horrible crimes. And Tori finally, comes to her senses, and she tries to call Kyle and say, you were right. He really is the person who's been doing all this. I'm sorry, like, you were right. And Brandon answers the phone, and she is like, shook. She's just standing there, and he's like, well, Dad's gone, so I'll be home soon. And of course, Tori is panicking. Brandon does eventually like get to the house, and he is rocking that shit up. That house is just getting torn and smashed. Tori is trying to call the police for help, and the sheriff eventually does like a 360. He turns back around. So once the sheriff and his I think deputy gets there, instantly they are both just killed. They're just, the sheriff explodes, and then the poor like deputy is just tossed around, just literally from roof to floor. And yeah, like literally there's no help that Tori can get, and she's trying to hide from Brandon as he's searching for her. She manages to get outside of the house and run to the barn, because she does remember the ship can harm him. This is the only way to stop him. So she goes down there, she rips off a piece of the ship, like a shard. Also, so when she does take off a piece of the ship, she sees the body of the waitress underneath the barn, like right across from the ship. And her body is just like, it's like kind of like nailed to the wall, and she's naked, and Brandon kind of like cut her open to see her female anatomy. And this is such a gnarly scene, dude. Like, it was pretty, like, it is a pretty cool, like, you know, shot and everything, because it just shows how very brutal Brandon really is, his nature. And yeah, it was really kind of creepy scene. So Brandon eventually does find Tori, and he, you know, goes up to her, but Tori, now knowing everything, she has to kind of play it down a little bit, and she has to act like, you know, Brandon is like, you know, that everything is okay, that she loves him, she trusts him, and she even tells Brandon, like, I know there's good inside of you. And during this moment, I don't know if Brandon is lying, like if he's toying with Tori, or if he genuinely means it, but he tells Tori, like, I want to be good. They hug each other, and that is when Tori slowly raises her arm up with the shard, and she is going to try to stab Brandon, but he catches her before she does. So yeah, she really was going slow with it. She was like, oh my god, like, you know, I can't do this to my son. But he, you know, stops her, and she's like, oh my god, like, you know, I'm sorry. And he just grabs her and shoots through the barn roof, and Tori is just messed up. Of course, Brandon is completely unscathed, nothing can harm him, and the only part that could was already, like, you know, that plan just kaput, basically. So he takes Tori all the way up into the night sky. They look at each other, and Brandon just drops her to her death. And yeah, I honestly, I didn't really feel bad for Tori, because fuck Tori 2026. Yeah, so basically his parents are gone, and Brandon sees a upcoming plane that's coming towards him, and the screen cuts to black. The next morning, news comes out about the plane crash, and it looks like he got the plane to kind of like go grab the plane and purposely like threw it down to hit his house and the barn, I assume, to kind of get rid of all evidence. But I feel like, okay, so I don't know if he hit the barn, but even if he hit the barn with the plane, the woman is still there, and she's like naked, pretty cut up. So I feel like if they were to find her, they'd probably have like some questions. But you know, anyways, so basically Brandon got off like the hook. He's kind of just sitting on an ambulance at the back of the ambulance car, eating a cookie, and that's the end of the movie. That's my breakdown on BRIGHTBURN 2019, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And yeah, subscribe, like. I have Instagram. You can follow that, baby_hills. I have a Twitch. I have not streamed a little bit, but I swear I will go back to it very soon, hopefully. Same name, baby_hills. And yeah, thank you guys for sticking around and, you know, supporting me. And I cannot wait for the next video. And yeah, that's it. Ta-ta.